welcome back. I am so excited to introduce to you my friend Erica. We have known each other for, oh my gosh, probably 3 years now. We have been on quite a journey together. And here we are today. So if you are new to Erica, which I'm sure many of you are, she is a certified sex coach and sexologist, and she's pretty badass. So we're going to hear her out today, and then I'm going to stick her with a doozy. So let's see what happens. Erica, can you go ahead and just kind of tell us about being a certified sex coach? Because one, I don't hear about that a lot, right? I hear about like intimacy coaches, I hear about like orgasm coaches, marriage coaches, all of those sort of things. And then what the heck is sexology? Because I'm thinking like stars and alignment and do I have a soulmate sexual partner? Like, what is this sexology? So you got to give us the details.
Yes. Well, thank you again for having me. And yes, we've known each other for quite a bit. As a matter of fact, you were the first business coach that I had hired when I was thinking about leaving my 9 to 5, which I was in the insurance industry. I was sick and tired of it, and I was trying to find a way to, leave my 9 to 5 and just strictly become like, a sex coach, right? And so I started. My journey was basically becoming a sex toy consultant, and that's where I got a lot of my expertise when it came to the pleasure aspect of it. But then this company also taught a lot of sexual health, and I just loved the sexual health piece of it. I wanted to learn about the women's reproductive system a lot more. And so I did the whole sex toy stuff, whatever, doing home parties, video Facebook parties and stuff like that. And I decided to stop it after about 6-7 years. I did go full time, and it was basically, to me, what I consider like a stepping stone, because I really wanted to just become more of a sex educator or sex coach, and then it led me to become a sexologist. So right now, I'm pretty much a sex coach, a sex educator. The educator piece is where I go to schools and I pretty much do education training or education for, elementary school, high schoolers, young moms, non-for-profit organizations. I do a lot of that. Of course, like each, depending on the age range, each lesson plan is different for, what I'm teaching, right? So I'm not going to teach like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds about masturbation, right? So, or like pleasure of a sex toy. So it just pretty much is depending on the age range. And then sexologist is someone who studies human sexuality, like, why certain people like certain things, or the thing is that sex is a little complex and it's very different. Sex and pleasure looks different for everyone, which is the coolest thing when it comes to sex, right? Like what turns someone on may not
Absolutely.
be very, very pleasurable for someone else. So I just love how different it is for everyone. And so that's what sexology is. I study that. I read tons of books. I go to a lot of trainings. So that's what I pretty much do. Yeah. So one of the topics that I remember when I would go and do these sex toy parties, a lot of women, one, found that the sex toy stuff is still taboo. Even to this age, it's like, oh, I don't touch myself. Like, I got a man for that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey, but your man doesn't vibrate. And you're wondering why you don't orgasm. Well, because the clitoris, like, when you're having sex, right? Um, a lot of women, I want to say about 70 to 80% of women cannot have a vaginal orgasm, right? It's only clitoral. And it's during penetration, it's very hard for the clitoral part to get stimulated enough to have an orgasm. So that's where the vibrators come in. And I would try to explain to them that, one, it's not replacing your partner, right? It's just enhancing it, because you also are allowed to have orgasms. Like, it should not just be a one party thing, it should be a both party thing, right? So
But also,
um
let me just say this.
mhm.
I think men need to understand, and maybe it's not a men thing. Like, no one taught them. I don't know. Like, But
Mm-hmm.
like, if it's good for us, it's good for them. Like, we're not replacing our partners, you know? And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because I remember us having this conversation, 3 years ago. We actually did a whole live stream series on this.
Okay.
And I just remember it coming up so much, like you're saying. And that's the thing, like, you're not replacing him in any way. Like, it's a totally, totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's so funny that, like, guys, like, why, of course they want it. Like, why would a woman think that like a man wouldn't want that? Because it does feel better for him, like
Right.
it enhances him too. It enhances his pleasure
Exactly.
too.
Especially while there's penetration, and we're talking about when there's like, female, someone that identifies as a female and someone that identifies as a male, right? When they're having that intercourse, while, your partner is having an orgasm and, the penis is inside, like that is a different feeling in itself with the contraction, and it, makes it tighter on them, and just the expression of her being pleasured. Like, why wouldn't you want that, right? And it's just what I keep telling everyone, and even women, is it's nothing that he is not doing. It's just how we are built. And that's what men, or everyone in general, right, needs to understand about the female vulva and vagina. We are built that way, and it's nothing that you can do, right, except add that enhancement of a clitoral vibrator, right? There's some people that can, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But for those that cannot, I don't want anybody feeling bad about it. There's the solution to it, which is go grab a little bullet, a little vibrator, put it on a clitoris while he has you doggy style, he or she, whatever, and then just get it on. Like,
Yeah.
get your pleasure on, right? Get that orgasm if that's what you want to achieve. So it's just I don't know why it has a for me, I don't understand why it has a bad rep, because I've always been a go masturbate because of the benefits.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of it has to do with us growing up,
Yeah.
and how we're told that touching yourself is bad, right? When it really isn't. There's a way to talk to kids growing up about how it is very healthy to masturbate. It's just it has to be done at in a certain place, right? Not in front of people, not in front of, so just, alone.
Right.
It's okay to explore because we do it anyway.
Right.
Growing up, we do it anyway. But it just there's a stigma behind it, because I mean, why do you think, let me ask you, why do you think there's a stigma
Oh
behind
my
it?
gosh. Well, so this is actually kind of hard for me to answer. And the only reason I
Hmm.
say that is because I've read books and I've done some research. And so I have some actual like education behind it. So I know some of the history and the oppression of women that comes behind why the pleasure was actually taken away.
Hmm.
But I'm also not one to sit here and be like, men are the devil.
Yeah,
And so knowing what I
sometimes they
know
are.
about history, I know that it was actually just a way to control us. Like, it was just a manipulative dick move, right? Like the ultimate dick
Hmm.
move, to the point where, to show property, the clitoris would get cut off and there was no way to ever
Hmm.
have pleasure. I mean, it was this terrible thing. And I think it got to the point where it was like, don't draw attention, right? If I draw attention to it, then something bad will happen. Just like, I mean, we do
Hmm.
that with our bodies in general, right? Like, I can't have big hair because somebody's going to think something different of me, and just, okay, for me, a personal example, I am an extremely curvy person, especially for my size, right? Like, I'm this little white
Hmm.
girl. I'm like barely 5 foot. Like, I'm this like tiny little person. You would not expect me to be curvy. And I'm
Right.
thin. Like, I'm a petite person. Like, it's just what it is.
Hmm.
And I never wanted attention drawn to me because it's different. It's sexy as hell now that I understand, but I didn't. And growing up, my body wasn't something to be idolized, right? So I hid, and I thought baggy clothes or dressing like a boy or wearing things that were oversized or only having
Hmm.
t-shirts in my closet was the way to go. And I think that that is
Hmm.
the same. And I mean, okay, maybe this is a stretch here, but I honestly do. I think it's the same line of stigma that masturbation comes from, or that it is not okay to be okay with yourself, right? It's not okay
Right.
to pleasure yourself. It's not okay to be sexy. It's not okay to feel that power and to feel, because you do
Confidence.
feel that thing change in you, something inside of you,
Mm-hmm.
like it lights on fire, it ignites, and now you're a woman in a whole new way. And I think
Yeah.
that's scary to the world. And I think for a lot of women, it's scary because they were not
Mm-hmm.
raised with powerful women, right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of our mothers were raised with moms who came out of some type of oppression, right? Moms who weren't allowed to be sexy. They came from generations where they had to cover up and all of this stuff, and they were
Yeah.
treated like they were just they were just house maidens. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
glorious women like we are today.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's yeah, I mean, it was just stuff that's not talked about, I think, growing up as well. And so part of what I do as an educator is try to normalize, masturbation, and just try to normalize sexual health in general, or just sex ed in general, right? But I just think that that's one of the things that a lot of my clients would tell me was, I wish that we were taught growing up that female masturbation was okay and it was healthy and not something bad, because a lot of times religion, it was, religious people would tell you the same thing: you masturbate, that's a sin, blah blah blah. And so my thing is, so why do we have areas that are extremely pleasurable for? Are they just there for decoration? Like, they're there to be used, right? We're sexual human beings, and these areas and parts are there for pleasure, right? And so I just don't want anyone to feel shamed about masturbation,
Mm,
and it's a way that I consider to be like self help, self care, because it teaches you how to explore your body at your own pace,
yeah.
right? So you do it in many different ways, different techniques, whether you want to use your hands, whether you want to use toys, whether you want to use other tools, like I've seen articles on how women just will take a bath, and then she'll all of a sudden discover that the water falling from, like, the, what do they call that little fossil thing,
Faucet.
the faucet, actually feels good, right? And so they're like, whoa, wait a minute, this actually feels good. And they can finally have an orgasm that way, or they discover, like, wait, why did that feel so good? And my body just started to shake, or just feeling a certain way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I recommend for masturbation. Again, it just gives you the ability to just get to know your body and get to know yourself, not just also for pleasure, but another thing is to get to know what normal is for your body, what normal is for you, right? Because you need to, when you explore or when you look at yourself, another thing that I tell my clients is, hey, grab a mirror, especially those that have vulva and vaginas. Grab a mirror, and like sit where you can actually look at it, and start like touching yourself to see what's normal. Only because when something abnormal appears, you know that it doesn't belong there, right? So
Yeah.
you catch things at an early stage, whether that's breast cancer or something in your vulva area, because there is vulva cancer, there is vaginal cancer. So those are some of the reasons why masturbation is just key, for pleasure, and also for your own health, right?
Yeah. And I feel like,
Yeah.
one of the important things moving forward is opening up that conversation, right? Like, if we're not talking about it, it's never going to get any better. And it was
Right.
so funny because I actually reached out to you after a moment with Aaliyah. So we were laying in
Mm-hmm.
bed one night watching a movie, no big deal. She's like, Mom, when I do this, it tickles. Why does it tickle? And I was like, okay, pause. Like, this is my mom moment. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I was gonna come in for the win on this one. I could do things differently. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was ready to be like the next generation mom. And so
Yeah. So what did you say? How did you
about that
answer
for
it?
a second. Hold on. I'm not sure how to explain this. And I didn't because I was caught off guard. Like, we were watching Disney.
Yeah.
and,
Ah.
anyways, it was just one of those moments where it was very humbling, and it made me think about it. Like, what do I want her to know, right? What I'm going to say next, that's going to start a conversation. That's going to shape some things. What do I want her to know? What do I want her to think? What do I want her first experiences, do I really want her to have with this? And so after kind of clarifying that, I realized for me, I want her to feel safe. I want it to feel like it's a safe topic. It is safe for her to talk to me about anything sexual related, because I should know, right? If she's going through something and she needs me to take her somewhere, or if there is something abnormal or whatever, right? Like, I need to know that. That's my baby,
of course. Yes.
Or whatever it is, like that. I just feel like that was a great time to have those, to start that conversation, to open the conversation. And so I didn't know what to say. I'm not going to lie. I totally panicked. But basically,
everybody would.
I just told her, I was like, honey, God loves you so much. Are you ready for this? Because her Nana is on the other side of religion, right? So I was like, not in a bad way, actually. That's not true. And her Nana won't be involved in these conversations, I'm sure. So it was a preset in my mind. Okay. Everything to fight religion, I let her know God loves her so much that he did it for her, right? So I was like, God loves you so much that he created all of these pleasure sensations all over your body, just like he created the flowers so you could smell them, and we went through all these different things that she loved. And I was like, that's why when you bite into a chocolate dipped strawberry, your whole body lights up and you're excited, like, because that's her favorite food. And little does she know how sensual that is. And I'm like, right? Baby, like, he did that for you, and he gave you these pleasures, these little sensations throughout your body too. So when it feels good when you're being tickled, or sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it feels good by certain people, sometimes it doesn't. Like, he gives you that so you get to determine what you want and what you don't want. That's all it is. And if you don't like it, you say no and you move on. God gave you that right. Because I didn't know what else to say. And I didn't want to be the one, like my mama said. And so in our house, God is the end all be all. So I was like,
gonna say,
God gave you the right, God gave you the right to have pleasure. And God also gave you the right to say, this doesn't feel good. No, thank you.
Yeah, I love that response. It's whatever is in your household that you all believe in. It's just not saying like, oh, don't touch yourself there. Don't you ever do that. Right. Don't ever shame them. Because then again, here comes, it develops the, insecurities. My mom told me that was bad, and believe it or not, that sticks in their head forever. And so therefore, when they are in a relationship, they don't have a healthy sex life, because they have that in back of their head. Like my mom always said, don't touch that. You know what I mean? Where we could just tell them that it's healthy, that it's a good pleasure zone. And that there's times that are lone times that it's done. If you ever watch, I think I did a live one time on, if you walk into your kid masturbating, what do you say, right? So the first thing was, do not shame them, and just talk about like, this is perfectly healthy and normal. A lot of people do it. You just have to do it in your room when nobody's around. Right. However, you don't do this to anybody else. Right, because you don't want your kid going to school talk about, Mama said it's healthy, and all of a sudden like something else happens in school. It's like, oh my God, no.
Your
So
kid's
it's like
sex health educator of the class.
Exactly, like that sex
every mom's nightmare.
TV show, right? It's like, oh my God, who is in this classroom, right? But no, I feel like it's a great way, that it's a great way that you've incorporated healthy, like sexual pleasure in a healthy way, right? So she'll remember that. And also, I think for children, I think it's really important that we talk to them about their body parts and name them and have them remember them as they are. Like, yes. I don't like when people teach their kids the cookie, because it is not the cookie, it is the vagina and the vulva, right? So the vulva is the exterior part, and then so I have my little puppet here. So this is like the vulva, right? And then the vagina is an internal organ inside. And so I think that when we speak about the proper terms, they are able to, one, become more confident in the terms, like, hey, I know this, I know what this is. But also, if something is happening to them that is not correct, right, then they know how to properly pinpoint the name of what's being touched, right?
Yes.
So yeah, there's a story about a little girl who's being molested or raped by an uncle, and she kept saying something about he licked my cookie or something like that, right? And so she kept saying that, and so I think that's how the story was, and I think until her teacher caught on, like, well, how is that happening? Like, can you show me or can you tell me? And then the little girl starts describing about how he takes her clothes off, and that's how they realize it. But at first they let it go because like, oh, it's the cookie, or whatever. So that's why we want to make sure that we teach our children and our kids the proper terminology of body parts, and then also consent.
100%. That's for their own
Hmm.
safety.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, I'm not here to start arguments, but or
Exactly.
can we use something super obvious, like super obvious? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw my niece under the bus. Since
Yeah.
for as long as I can remember, she's only 3 now, okay? But for as
Uh-huh.
long as I can remember, it's been a coochie. Like, you
Yes.
can't get that wrong. When she walks up and she says,
Oh
"My
yeah.
coochie hurts," you know
Yep. Hmm.
exactly what she's talking about, right? But like
Exactly.
food or other objects, that's confusing. And it's also confusing to the kid, especially when
Hmm.
we don't think about it. We use cookies as like prizes and things like that.
Yes.
And then we just
Yes.
name something and now they're confused. And now it's like this
Hmm.
horror story for them. And don't get me started on that.
Yeah, that's why, we are fighting. I live in Illinois. What city do you live in, or what
I'm
state?
down in Oklahoma. I live in Tulsa.
Tulsa. Okay, so I live in Illinois, like Chicago kind of area, suburban area, and I work for Planned Parenthood actually. Like they hired me on as a sex educator, and I've got a lot of different types of training with them. Like my background is women's sexuality, women's reproductive health and sexuality,
Mhm.
and they hired me on because of my background, but also it was great. Like it was a great job. It's a great job because I'm learning like the LGBTQ plus community. I'm learning how to talk to children, whereas before it was just strictly women 18 and over. So I'm a little well rounded now in so many different topics. But yeah, so it's like it's just kind of like great to I kind of lost my thought of where the heck I was going. Oh crap. Oh,
That's
when you get so
okay.
excited.
That's okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's also, Illinois. So we're fighting for sex education to be part of requirement of the curriculum for, specific grades. Obviously, the lesson plans will be different based on age, right, and grade. What I will be teaching a kindergartner would not be the same as a sixth, seventh grader. So
Right.
for me, like teaching kindergartners about the proper body parts and what consent is, and a little bit about healthy relationships, I think that'll get them at a good start. I think that it can possibly help with something that's happening to children, and
Mhm.
unfortunately it happens in the household and with relatives.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be able to teach that so that it doesn't happen, so, or if it is, like, let's nip it and let's get to it right away.
Mm.
So that's what we're fighting for right now. There's a lot of back and forth between it. I've heard a lot of parents that are against it, and then I hear parents that are, and so I'm like, let educators and let people who are fully trained do this for you as a parent. Sometimes
Right.
it can be a little difficult, and you don't know how to explain certain things, right? And so you don't want to scar your children, and you don't want to use tactics either. So just let us educators
Yeah.
who are trained to do this for you, and
Right.
so we're hoping that it gets there. So we're
Well,
hoping
we'll
it gets there
see.
all
You never
over.
know. Things are crazy these times. Like,
Oh yeah.
you never know how things are going to turn out. It is
Hmm.
incredible. But I mean, I hope I'm an advocate for it, whether it's in the public
Hmm.
school systems or not. It's something that I want for my daughter, but mostly from a place of them as an empowered mom. I don't know
Hmm.
much when it comes to the sex world. I'm not educated in it. I came from a house where it was okay to be sexual, but it was also still like shameful to be a woman. So it was very confusing,
Hmm.
like it was very weird. I don't
Yeah.
really know how to
Yeah.
explain that one, but I want my daughter to feel comfortable in her own body. And I want her to feel empowered. I remember times, even as early as elementary school, feeling uncomfortable and not knowing who to have those conversations with, not even know, because people are like, go to your mom. I didn't even know what to say to her. Like, how do you have a conversation when you don't even know what to say? It's hard as a child. And so my main focus is, can I help my daughter, right? Like, can I have these conversations open? Can I continuously be having them? Can I be vigilant enough to understand that things are changing? She's at a certain age. We need to start having conversations. She's interested in bras. We got to have conversations. Like, things are happening.
Yeah, exactly. Things are happening. That's right. And it's good to kind of have like, like someone who's trained to give us all this advice,
Right.
like how to get into these conversations with your kids. Sometimes there's some parents that are really open, are great at it, but some parents are like, oh God, I don't even know where to start, or am I saying the right
Yeah.
thing? So but we'll see how it goes. I think that one of the things that I always tell my not my patients, but like my clients are, female masturbation, like, do it. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, this is how you get to know yourself. This is how you know where your pleasure zones are, because we change as we grow, and you may discover things that were never there before, right? And so the only way to do that is for you to take your you time and explore your body. Just because you're in a relationship or you're married, it doesn't mean that you can't still do these things, right? There's so many benefits to it besides just it creates, confidence and self-love in yourself. Because that's what happened to me personally. I had my daughter when I was 16, so I was a teen mom, and I just knew sex was cool, and it kind of felt good, but not to what I know now. And so when I got divorced the first time, this is my second marriage, but the first time I got divorced was when I really was able to learn about myself and how to use different toys. And I pretty much taught myself that. And I think that's what really geared me towards being a sex toy consultant, right? It was because, like, oh my God, like, this feels so fucking great. I don't know if we can curse, sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Oh my God, this just feels great. And I just remember feeling very confident, especially in the bedroom. And so my whole thing was, I want every woman to feel the same way. And how do you get there, in my experience? And what I can advise is pretty much self pleasure, is taking time for yourself and masturbating. When my daughter used to go with her dad and I had nothing else planned, I literally would turn on some porn, get turned on, put on some cool music or whatever, and I pop out all my toys and I figure out which one I was in the mood for. If I didn't, I swap it for the other one. I mean, it was like, and I just became very confident in my sexuality, and I loved it. Although many individuals that I would be involved with were insecure about it, and so I'm like, dude, that's your problem. At one point, before I became so self-confident, I thought if someone wasn't performing was because of me. And then after I, discovered myself, and I was like, oh man, like, I can do this, and this feels great. I would turn around and I'd be like, that's a you problem, honey. Let me pop my toy out because I'm gonna get it, like, you figure
Yeah.
that out. And I think a lot of the times it was that they were insecure about and scared. Like, oh my God, this woman knows herself. She knows how to have her orgasm. She knows what she wants. She knows where to direct me. For some, it was something that was intimidating.
Yeah,
And I'm
it
like, well,
is.
that's a
It
you
is very
problem, honey.
intimidating because all of
Mm-hmm.
those things overflow into every area of your life. You're now empowered in all the areas. It's easier for you to go make other decisions, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you want in other areas because you internally, like, you very really know what feels good and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So when you go to
Yeah.
make a decision, it's like, wait, that doesn't feel as good as I wanted to. No, thank you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go do this instead.
Exactly. Or let me redirect you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because I always tell people, like, the clitoris is not a DJ booth. Like, they just want to go in there and go all out, like, hold on, relax. Like, let me just teach you what feels good for me. For me, it could be on the right. For your previous partner, it could have been on the left, right? So that's another thing too that I always say, like, and this is like my quote, like, your orgasms are your responsibility. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you should know how to orgasm, not have someone give them to you. Because
Right.
what happens if that person disappears? You're not gonna know how to orgasm by yourself. Like,
Yep.
like, so your orgasms are your responsibilities, and so it just
And that's
creates
the
a better.
empowering part, though. I just want to interject. Like,
Yeah,
is masturbation great? Like, should you be doing it? Yes. Does it lower sex? All the things.
text to the yes,
Absolutely. But the empowering
yes.
part is when you realize that you can do it, that you are
Hmm.
the one giving yourself the orgasm. If it's always
Exactly.
coming from someone else or an outside stimulus, if you will, you never have
Hmm.
that power. And so somebody has that control over you. You only get to feel that
Hmm.
good. You only get to have that invigoration during that
Hmm.
person's company. And that's not fair because like you're in the longest relationship you're ever going to be with, like right here.
Forever. Your vulva and your vagina is thank you. Like, you're gonna have to love yourself forever. And I'm sorry, but like, sometimes a lot of times you need your alone time, and you knowing how to take care of yourself, and that masturbation is part of it.
Yeah.
So like, I just recommend it to all my clients, even though I get oh my God, I don't know. Every orgasm is different for every person, right? And so that's the cool part of it. It's just different. And so some of my tips and options are, to try to get in the mood, because it could be hard for us women, us who identify as women, because our minds are just constantly going. Like, you're thinking about dinner, you're thinking about, oh my God, I gotta post this, I gotta take the kids here, right? If you like, I recommend porn, honestly. Like, the porn industry has so many variety, right? So if you're into certain things, it's there for you. If you like softer porn, it's there for you, right? Something to help turn you on, right? A good lubrication as well, is what I recommend. And obviously, different toys, different toys, whether it's external, which I mean clitoral vibrators, or try internal, like a toy that vibrates, that goes into the vagina, right? Or you actually have a dual action vibrator that will hit the clitoris and also the vaginal area. So just explore. You'll never know what you'll like. Fantasize. Think about something that you've always wanted to do. Women always fantasize, whether they want to admit it or not, about having sex with other women. And so, oh yeah, there's a lot
Really?
of that. Oh yeah, women, but they won't admit it. There's a
Hmm.
study out there, I can't remember percentages or whatnot, but as far as choosing porn, that's women, wanting to see other women in the porn industry. And also, that's
That
a
is
big, huge
so
fantasy.
funny. There
Mm-hmm.
was a discussion
Threesomes.
about that on TikTok. I
Yes.
am. I'm like a
I gotta
TikTok
get a
fiend.
TikTok. I gotta get a TikTok because I hadn't one. Okay, so here's a bad part about being a sexologist and a sex educator, right? You say who you are, and oh my God, like, either one, men are intimidated, or they're like, oh my God, like, she must be really good at giving blowjobs, and I'm like, no, I am not. I educate and I teach. It doesn't make me better than anybody else,
That's so
so
funny.
so it's just for me, I again, masturbation is a healthy and satisfying thing to do. And it leads to better communication with the partner as well. Like, you can
Yes.
guide them to what feels good, what doesn't. And if they don't like it, then that's them. That's a problem that they have. That's another issue that they have. But most men, from what I hear, love a woman who's confident, especially in the bedroom.
Oh
So
yeah. My husband thinks that's like the sexiest thing ever.
mhm. Mhm.
So
You know what? I think I want to interview my husband one day with my podcast, which I'll be working on getting up and running soon, thanks to you. I want to interview him because I've asked him, like, what it was like with the first time we had sex, and whether he was scared. And I just want to interview him. And I know he was a little scared because he says, here's a woman who knows a lot about sex. Like, will I be satisfying her? And so that was something, again, that is intimidating. But for some, like, it's a challenge. Like, we'll see. And I always say, like, listen, the first time someone has sex, that could be hard on both, because you're still trying to get to know each other. You're still gonna It's still brand new, right?
Mhm.
So I always say, give it a second chance, a third chance. And I feel like sex is something that we can all learn. We can always learn from each other, right? So, like, let's make it work here. So
Yeah.
there's always a way. There is always a way. Luckily, the first time we had sex. It was great. But it was more like me, like you and me, we're having sex right now. And he's like, okay.
He doesn't understand.
Yeah, you know,
Or
so,
at
and
least
that's
he
another
didn't then.
thing.
I'm sure he gets it
Yeah,
now.
oh, he gets it now. And that's another thing, like, that I fight a lot about is just because, you know, women also have the right to want sex and ask for it. You know what I mean? Like, it should not just be men. Why are we called a slut or a hoe or whatever when we want to be sexual, or when we have multiple partners, or when we want sex and enjoy it, you know, or when our sex drive is higher, you know, because there's a lot of women out there whose sex drive are higher than, you know, their partners. So there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's just a stigma behind that, which that could be a different topic as well. So, but
Definitely.
yeah, my recommendation is to masturbate. If you have a partner, you know, sometimes you can use your partner to masturbate, you know, with each other, watch each other masturbate. That's another cool tip. Or just use your alone time to
Mm.
get to know yourself and continue to check on your vulva and make sure that your vulva and your vagina are looking good still. You know, they're quite healthy. So, and orgasms, I mean, God, that just adds you know, more years to your life. That gives you smile. That gives you, you know, your endorphins, or you're happy. If you need to sleep, it helps you with sleep. I mean, it's just wonderful.
That's right.
Just
That's right.
wonderful.
Erica, thank
So,
you so much for cracking this conversation open with us. I know that this is such an uncomfortable, I mean, all of it, sex, partners, talking about sex,
mhm.
masturbation, toys. The whole thing can be very uncomfortable for so many people. So
Oh yeah.
thank you for exploring this with us and allowing us just to have this conversation. And for everyone listening, just know that we're going to be in the Facebook group talking about all of it this week. We're going to be talking about women's health, and we're going to be talking about sexuality and masturbating and just all of the
Yes.
things. So join
Yes.
us
Yes.
in the Facebook group. Make sure that you are connected with Erica. Her IG is all about sexual education, so we'll get you connected with that. And you can also
hmm
check out her Facebook and kind of get close to her, because she's starting her new lifestyle blog, and she's going to be posting her podcast, and she's got a whole bunch in store coming up. So you guys, come
Yay.
on, get connected, and we will have a great conversation soon in the Facebook group. Erica, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye. See you next
Bye.
time.